Yo, good afternoon, or good evening. It gets dark now. Hi, happy Sunday. Thank you all for joining us for another episode of the CS podcast, ran by the Narrative Justice. As always, we start off by giving honor, love, and respect to Leroy Powell. If you are unaware of Leroy's story, he was 15 years old in 2014. He was a witness to an attempted murder turned infanticide, unfortunately. All teenagers, and he did what we would call the right thing, right? He did the thing, and he gave witness statement to what he witnessed. In his 15-year-old self, along with his mother, the recording of his witness statement was played at the preliminary hearing, of course. Which isn't necessarily the problem. I mean, I find it problematic, but that's not necessarily the issue. The issue is that our local media, news media, decided that they were going to broadcast this recording on the 11 o'clock news that night. Leroy was 15. He was a minor. They did not block his face. They did not scramble his voice. They didn't even block his mother out. So, of course, he and his mother received death threats immediately, and Leroy, several days later, was found dead. That was absolutely the fault of our local media, so much so that they know it, and I say that because I've spoken to many of them. So they know what they did and was wrong, and they knew not to do it. They have protocols for, like, say, and trigger warnings for suicides, not to, broadcast and splash those things around because it's harmful to the family. They have protocols for things, and they chose not to do anything. So always, we speak on Leroy's name. Leroy is actually why we're here today. He's the reason why the Narrative Justice exists today, because media is absolutely powerful. Life and death is in the power of the tongue, and our local media absolutely has so much impact on how our lives go. So, like, it's important that we hold media accountable always. If they show up in your community, especially if there's a tragedy, you do not have to talk to them. You ain't got to say a word to them. If you want to talk to them later, like, you can tell them that. Can I have your card? I'll talk to you later. You don't have to, when someone's rushing up in your face with a camera, you ain't got to say nothing to them. If you're concerned about their journalism, you can ask for their portfolio. You do not have to answer them. You don't have to do anything. They are not the authority of anything or anybody. And remember that, quite frankly, oftentimes local media, legacy media, has more of a negative impact on Black and brown communities, specifically in marginalized communities, than they do positive ones. So, again, we always give love and respect to Leroy Powell, and we always remember why he's not here with us today. Also, as a reminder, it only takes about 25% of the community for change to occur. Do not think that your voice is too small. You don't need everybody on your side. Ask me how I know. You don't need to have everybody on your side to make change. Do what you feel is right. If something seems wrong, then do what you need to do. Like, if you think something could be better, do what you need to do. It could be you. It could be you and your friend, you and your cousin, your mama, your sister, your brother, your neighbors. Just do it. Do what you feel is right and continue to do it and be consistent, and eventually you will see the change that you want. Like, that's point blank period. That's science. What updates do I have today? As always, and I'm happy to, and I mentioned this last week, but I'll also say it again today. The COVID rent relief program was set to end in December, which is now, but it actually has been extended until next year. So it'll be going on until September 2022. If you need help with your rent or utilities and you live in Allegheny County, you can go online and apply. It's at covidrentrelief.alleghenycounty.us. If you need help with doing your application for whatever reason, it's a fairly easy application process. But if you need help at all, or if you need help with the uploads for the documents, anything like that, you can drop in at any of the centers around the county. The Wellness Collective runs one of the centers in McKeesport. The address is 335 Fifth Avenue. I finally changed that. I had it wrong for like months, literally months. I would say 335 but it's at 337 for some stupid reason. But anyway, if you need help, you can drop in at any of the centers. Ours is at 335 Fifth Avenue in McKeesport, PA 15132. We are right next door to probation. So if you look and see probation and you're like, this is setup or this is weird, we're actually right next door. So, don't get confused. The door is sometimes open, sometimes it's closed. We are open most days through the week, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. On Thursdays, and this is super important, on Thursdays, we're open from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m., 12 p.m., noon until 8 p.m. evening. So that means if you come down there at 10:30 in the morning, don't call Action Housing. Don't call us fussing us out. We're not open and we ain't going to be open. Don't think that I'm calling you back. I'm not. I will call you back at 12 when we're open. Jokes aside, but yeah, we are open later on Thursday just to accommodate more folks' schedules. But most days it's 10 to 6. If you want to come down, we also have a little food pantry there and also a free store. So feel free to come through, either drop things off or take things. There's no registration or anything like that. You can just come in and grab what you need. You don't have to engage in the drop-in center at all. If you just want to come in and, engage with those things, they're there. Speaking of the Wellness Collective, we are currently hiring community delivery drivers. This is essentially what we do is we deliver food mostly and other household products to community members around Allegheny County, specifically concentrated in Pittsburgh, but we do deliver around the county. Typically, deliveries, you'll receive $5 per delivery. At first, for a while, it's been $15 an hour, but a lot of the deliveries are concentrated. So like if you do like 10 deliveries, that might not be an hour worth of work. So we actually just switched it to $5 per delivery. And then that does change. So if you're all the way out in the county, then it's a little bit more. If it's multiple deliveries, it's a little bit more, et cetera, et cetera. So if it's something that you are interested in, you would have to have a car and current insurance. I don't want no problems with nobody. So your insurance does have to be current. If it is something that you are interested in, you can call or text us at 412-568-3579, or you can email admin@thewellfolk.org and Kenya will take care of you. Last update until we get started, self-care housekeeping. If you know me, I do all the things. Self-care housekeeping, we're also hiring for wellness providers. We have such a long waiting list. So if you are on our waiting list right now, bear with us. And the list is long and it gets longer literally every day. We've almost since the day we opened, we've received requests for service from people all around the country. That's always been the case, but in the last year or so, that definitely has spiked. So we are doing our best, training new people, bringing on new people, but we always need new people coming in. So if you're interested in this type of service, our wellness providers are in-home support. So the people who go to the homes to provide services, it's such a beautiful thing that we do. I can't explain the way that it makes myself feel. I love what we do. And if it's something that you're interested in, if you like helping people in a very meaningful and impactful way, check us out. You can ask for more information, if you'd like. Wellness providers make between $15 and $30 an hour, depending on the services that they're providing. If you're interested, you can email us at peacelives@selfcarehousekeeping.com. I think that's as far as I'm going to run my mouth right now because I like to get to the show. So I am excited. As you all know, I am expecting a little person. And that has been just the highlight of all of my life right now. And so we're on this birthing, all things birthing and babies that's just what I'm doing right now. I would like to shout out my birthing center. They gave me this cool little pajama set yesterday at my ultrasound, which brings me to this path that we're on. Very much thinking about non-traditional tracks of birthing, birth working. Doula services, midwives, et cetera, et cetera. I had a OBGYN prior to getting with my midwife and my doulas, which no shade to her at all. She was Black, beautiful, very intelligent, But she worked in the hospital. She works. She's a doctor, and things are just what they do is what they do. The difference that I noticed between my OB and the birthing center that I go to is that like there's so much love and community at the birthing center, and it's so cool. Like I come in and they're like, "Hey, what's up, Sharon?" I'm like, "What's up?" They got snacks because they know I ain't eat. They know I eat before that appointment. Like, look, it's just very like loving and communal. They check in, like, how you doing? Ask all the questions, even if it doesn't apply to me. Like, you good on food? Like, how's the rent? Like, y'all able to pay bills? Like, are your water on? Like, do y'all have any issues that y'all dealing with? Super dope. Like, and of course, you're just not going to get that at a doctor's office. Like, you just don't. It's not built the same way. So, like, I just found that to be very interesting. So, some folks that I very much have a lot of love and respect for are doing like really, really incredible things. Like we had Martinea Goss on last week with all of the things that she is doing, and she's doing the placenta encapsulation along with other things that she's doing, which I think is amazing. We're definitely going to do. And this week we have Elephant Song Doula Services on. So I guess now I'm gonna stop running my mouth. I was gonna do that a while ago, but I'm gonna do it now. And start bringing on our guests. We have a good bit of their staff and their founder, Miss Kieashia Edwell. How are you, gorgeous?
Sorry about that. I had to unmute myself. Hi. I'm so happy to be here. I'm doing okay. Can't complain.
Yes, awesome. And Janina's here with you in the room.
Hey, yes, I am.
What's up? So I will get to y'all in a second, but I'm bring up the rest of your staff.
Yes.
So we'll start with Ms. Leah Pugh.
Hi.
Hello, gorgeous.
Hello.
How's your day going?
It's gone pretty well so far.
Awesome. That's always what we like to hear. All right. Next up, we have Ms. Shamel. How are you?
Hello. Hi, everybody.
How you doing today?
I'm okay. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Cannot complain.
Nice to meet you.
Likewise. And so far, we have one more. We have Sterling. Sterling, are you on? Oh, well, Sterling's there. I don't know if you can hear me yet. We will come back to Sterling. And I think Sherelle just popped in. Let me see if I can get her. She's still connecting. Well, that's okay. We'll wait to see if Sterling and Sherelle connects. But in the meantime, we can get started. Firstly, I would like to come to you, of course, Kieashia, since you are the brains and the beauty behind this whole little operation here.
Yes, I guess I am the brains behind this operation. For anybody that doesn't really know me or doesn't know what I do and what I started, I'm Kieashia Edwell, and I am the founder of Elephant Song Doula Services, which is Pittsburgh's first Black-owned and freestanding birth doula practice. We specialize in connecting families in our city and beyond, specifically Black families, with Black birth workers, Black maternal and child health professionals, which is why I decided to expand our doula practice into a co-working space. But we are dedicated to connecting families to birth services, resources that can really set them up for not just an informed and empowered pregnancy, but also set them up for good things into new parenthood as well. And I needed a team that was going to be amazing to help me do that. So that's how I came to kind of to bring together, this collection of amazing Black women that are dedicated to this work, and have been long before I was, sniffing around looking for people to to come and work with me. But I feel super blessed to have them. I really, really do.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. We also have someone else here. Rabbi, can you hear me?
Yes.
What's up with gorgeous? All right. So Kieashia, first I want to know, like, where are you from? Are you from the city area? And then also, how did you get into birth work?
So I was born here in Pittsburgh. I was born right at Shadyside Hospital back when they was, delivering babies. I'm 35. If some of y'all might be like, when was Shadyside delivering babies? But yeah, back in 1986 they were. And I was raised here up until I was about 10, and my family moved to Columbus, Ohio. So I went from one football town to another. And I still am not a football fan. But by the time I was about 6 years old, I was having a sibling, and I was super duper excited about it, and was really, really interested in kind of the process, but still a little young. My mom and my parents were super duper open with the process of birth, and just treated it as a natural thing. I never kind of felt that nervousness a lot of people do, or kind of uncertainty around pregnant women and families. And by the time another sibling was coming, when I was 10, I was ready to be in the birth room. So I was in there. It was recorded. I was so excited and being so goofy. Oh my goodness. But I was excited. So, and from then on, I wanted to be around birth all the time. So another sibling came when I was 12, and I was there as well. From then I just kind of would absorb everything that I could. I would read everything. I would watch everything. Every documentary I could get my hands on. And so by the time I was about 15 and going into high school, I went to a high school in Columbus, Ohio, where back then they were kind of, if you were pregnant and you were in high school, they would kind of try to send all of those girls to the same school, where they would kind of have like resources and, parenting classes and things like that. And so I ended up having a lot of friends that were parenting at a young age. A lot of friends that unfortunately didn't have the support that they needed. So I would go to be with them while they were having their babies. I would watch their babies, after school if they had stuff to do. It was just a part of who I was from a very young age. My mom had a daycare, so it was really, really easy for me to find ways to support my friends that didn't have support. So I was at birth at 15, and this is year 20. That sounds so crazy, but this is year 20, and I was kind of helping friends, family and loved ones for all of this time. But 2019, I decided I wanted to kind of expand. In 2020, I said, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to look into getting, I wanted just a little office, like a garage or something that size. But I really, went a little bit above and beyond, and I'm glad I did, because now I have space to share, with other Black birth workers that just, we don't have a safe space. So that's what I wanted to do. And these awesome people are helping me do it. I'm grateful.
That is beautiful. Yeah, child. Yeah, it's definitely true that folks are born into it, because babies and me, I'm like, ugh. Well, birthing and me, all of life, like, that's gross. Just bring the baby when it's all done. And yeah, so there's definitely you clearly born into it if you were a child already into babies and birthing and all that fun stuff going on there. We have one more person that's trying to get in. Let's see if we can pull in Sherelle. Let's see if she comes in. I think it's still some tech issues. Sherelle, I'm not sure if you can hear us, but if you're able to get on a different Wi-Fi network, that might help a little bit. Doing things virtually is always it's hit or miss. It's convenient, but it doesn't always work the way it's supposed to. So we'll try. Hopefully she can hop on a different network, because it's not coming through. Sorry, Sterling. Sterling, how are you?
I'm good. How are y'all? Sorry that I keep moving my camera. I was trying to find a good angle. I look like I'm 90 years old over here with just my throat in the picture.
You are silly. You are fantastic. Look, do whatever you need to do to be comfortable.
No worries.
Oh, awesome. Well, since I'm talking to you and looking at you right now, how did you get into birth work, and how did you get connected with Kieashia?
So for me, I guess like everybody else, I have always had an affinity with like babies and like pregnant women and all that kind of stuff. Um, I had my first child when I was 21, and I chose to breastfeed him. So that kind of led me to the world of breastfeeding, not necessarily the world of birth work, but I became like the person that everybody asked their questions to about breastfeeding. And they were like, what can I do about this? And is this normal? Can you help me? Can you do this? Blah, blah, blah. And in 2015, I had my daughter. So I had a really rough time with her because I had developed a really bad kidney infection shortly after birth, and nobody told me that I could breastfeed her while I was really sick. Like I ran a fever of 104 for like 7 days. Like I was really, really sick. And they were just, giving me this medicine, but I was away from my baby. And I was just like, okay, well, I don't know what to do. But then once I was ready to be reunited with her, after running such a high fever, I really didn't have a milk production. And I went to my doctor because I was like, if anybody can help me, my doctor can help me. And he basically was like, you can either take this pill and maybe you'll get your supply back, or you can just forget it and just give her formula. And I was really heartbroken because I knew all the benefits that breastfeeding had done for my oldest, and I wanted to give that to my daughter. So I was like, yeah, I'm not going to stop. I'm going to do what I have to do. So I was able to successfully relactate with her, and I breastfed her for like 14 months after that. So I knew there was probably other women out there that were, going through similar experiences, and, just didn't really have the family support. I can speak from like the Black community. We can't typically like ask our moms or our grandmas or something like that when it pertains to breastfeeding, because, I know at least in my family, there's a stigma associated with breastfeeding. They'll be like, ooh, that's nasty, and I never want to do that and all that kind of stuff. And by the time I got around to having my third one, everybody was just like, oh, that's Sterling. She's going to breastfeed. She's going to do whatever she want to do. But when I was pregnant with my third one, I got certified through Lactation Education Resources, and became a certified breastfeeding specialist. After that, I just started working with other midwives and doulas and stuff in the area. And then kind of built a name for myself in Atlanta and on these internet streets. And then when I found out what she was doing, she was like, yeah, I want a team. And I was like, oh, yeah, I want to do it. I want to help her with breastfeeding, because I feel like everybody should have access to breastfeeding education and support.
Wow, that's amazing. And I think I might have seen something either from Kieashia or Janina, one of y'all. Somebody had posted something about lactation specialists typically being white women.
So IBCLCs are typically white women, and they're like, the certification is extremely expensive. It's like $700 a month, a year, to maintain the licensure. Then there's also, the insurance, the cost. I think the test is like $4,000 to sit for the test. And there's no guarantee that you'll pass it, and they don't give you any of your money back. If you have to take it more than one time or anything like that. And even like for me, I don't think sitting for the IBCLCE was the exam is practical for me, because I already have a practice. So in order for me to be eligible to sit for the exam, I would basically have to shadow somebody who's already an IBCLC, and I'd have to give them my clients and then work for free to get these like requirements where they're checking off that they saw me working. And I was like, that's asinine. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And really the only difference is they can write prescriptions and they can bill insurance. That's really the only difference. And a lot of people go into it thinking like, oh, I can work at the hospital. But if you're not already a nurse, they're not even going to hire you, because they only want nurses who are already IBCLCs or nurses who aspire to be an IBCLC. So for me, it just doesn't seem practical. I'm perfectly fine out here, doing what I'm doing with this certified breastfeeding credential. And I've never had any issues or anybody like question, why aren't you doing it the other way?
Wow, That's wild. A quick aside. It's funny around the certifications and how that's used to basically gatekeep access, particularly for Black and brown folks. It makes me think about the thing that popped in my head. Well, first of all, I'm a social worker by trade. I'm not licensed. I didn't pursue any of it because it just didn't make sense to me. It flat out doesn't make sense to me. And I also have no intention of being like a therapist or anything. There's absolute reason to, at least have that type of education. But even even still, the certification process is kind of like, that's a money grab. That's a money grab. But it also made me think about Freedom House that used to be on the Hill. And those were the folks that created the EMT service, the paramedic service, the Black people that created the paramedic services right there in Pittsburgh. And the city didn't, they didn't support them, wasn't really here for them. I mean, they contracted, the county, I believe, contracted with them because they did the work, right? And prior to Freedom House's paramedic system, they didn't exist. The police would send a paddy wagon or a van basically to pick you up and hope you ain't die before you got to the hospital. That was the extent of it. And they didn't come to Black communities, because they still don't. And the story that I'm told, and I'm not sure if it's as linear as this, but the story that I'm told is that there was some white kid somewhere in Castle Shannon or something that was hit by a car or something happened to the child. And so they sent out Freedom House. And they came, they saved the kid's life. And all of a sudden it was oh my God, this is great. All of a sudden it validated what they've been doing. Right. But from there, it wasn't oh, we should embrace this thing that exists here now. Instead, the city or the county, one of the two, I think it was the city of Pittsburgh, because now I believe there's a plaque in at Freedom Corner in the Hill naming this. But the city of Pittsburgh, I'll say, decided that they were going to duplicate the services that Freedom House created, and then canceled their contract and said that you can continue to do this work, but now you have to be trained by the people basically that you trained. And you don't own it. Now you're an employee of something that you started. And it makes me think about Black legacy, right? We're creators of so much. We're the founders of so much, and it's just snatched away and erased, right? It blew my mind how much people did not know that in Pittsburgh. I only know I happen because very community oriented. So I'd go to community meetings and such, and I heard it somewhere. And I thought I was late to the party. And then I started having conversations with other people and then noticed that nobody knows this. Why don't we know this? So it's that erasure of history. But Sterling, as you were talking about that, it just all of these instances of things that we either create or that we do, but there's this barrier for us accessing any of it. And it's usually financial and behind the guise of, oh, well, you have to be credentialed. It's no, that's not what it is, though.
Yeah, even with the IBCLC, the fact that was created by 6 white women in the 80s, so it's new. It's not it's been around for centuries. It was literally 6 white women, and I was born in 89, so I think maybe 85 max. So it's relatively new. And like I said, most of the people who have it are either older white women who were in the hospital setting around the 80s, or it's younger white women who are in the hospital setting now. And I even see on Instagram, it'll be a nutritionist or somebody else who basically has some type of childcare or some other kind of segue into it, but they're just oh yeah, I can pay for that, yeah, sure, and just get into it, and they'll just have IBCLC in their bio, but they in my DMs asking me for breastfeeding support and how to most recently I had a client who was Hispanic, who basically put her lactation consultant and me in a group chat after she had booked a meeting with me, because her lactation consultant told her that she would never get a good latch unless her whole areola fit in her baby's mouth. I have small boobs. Her areolas was about the size of my boob, and the baby's mouth was like this big. And I was like, she's like, and Sterling told me that I don't ever have to put all of my areola in this baby's mouth. And she's like, I've been struggling with you for like 3 weeks, and you really had me thinking that I was doing this wrong, because she told her that all of her areola had to go in her baby's mouth.
Don't.
Shannon's like, wait, this is only my second day out here.
She's like, wait, areola?
We went straight to areola.
She was like, no, because that's what they really tell you, and then you really feel like something's wrong with your body. Because
Right.
you looking down, you're like, my areolas ain't never been that little. Okay?
Brown women don't have these little tiny, you know.
Now I have small
I was about to
ish
say,
areolas.
'cause-
I got small boobs, but y'all, I wish I should have brought my bag in here. But I have a teaching aid where the areolas are like this big on the boobs, and when I pull those out, she was like, "Oh my God, those are my boobs. Those are my boobs. That's what my breasts look like." And she was basically just telling me, like, her lactation consultant just told her that eventually her baby's mouth would grow, and she needed to keep stuffing all of her areola in the baby's mouth to get a good latch. Very problematic.
That's very interesting, because I was actually told that as well. So it's like, where are you guys getting this training from?
It's
that's
in
not
it's in a
including-
lot of documents.
Yep.
But again, these documents are based off of white women with small areolas. So if you're not accustomed to dealing with or working with people of color, or just, melanated backgrounds, you think everybody's areolas are this big, and all or most of the areola has to be in the baby's mouth. I've even been in like the WIC office, and I've like marked that part out because they're giving that literature to people, and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. If I ever see that on any part of anything that I come across, I mark it out, because there's other ways to understand that you're able to get a good latch without telling people all or most of your areola has to be in the baby's mouth. I'm gonna go get my teaching aid so I can show y'all what I'm talking about.
Now y'all know I keep a brown boobie. You know I keep a brown boobie. But like, you can't tell people misinformation. Like, oops, hold on, this camera's weird. And I get, it is literally my breastfeeding videos on TikTok that are the most shared and the most liked, because there is so much misinformation. And what ends up happening is, like Nina said, someone's giving you this misinformation, and you're not taking this as, oh, this is someone who may have never even worked with somebody who looks like me. You're taking it as, this person of authority is telling me that my body is wrong. It's telling me that my baby can't do this. It's telling me that I somehow am broken and can't feed my own child. And that can snowball into so many different things. And, it's just really coming to grips with the fact that those that have been trained in this country have been, in so many cases, trained incorrectly. And if we are not willing to admit that and start to kind of rewind, then what's happening is we are passing this information down to people. And it's not just one person to one person. Now I'm telling this to my friend. I'm telling this to my sis who's breastfeeding. Like, girl, well, if you can't get the whole areola in there, that's what they told me. That's what the IBCLC told me. She has all this training, and it's the same with the providers. It's the same with, our OBs and things of that nature, whose learning is outdated, and we're getting the same misinformation. Oh, that's even better. Yours is even better. Yeah, that's right. There we go.
I had to go get them. These are my hands. Hold on. These are my hands-free teaching aids, so I can teach my breastfeeding classes.
No, I'm here for it all. Oh my goodness, that is some scary stuff. that is some scary stuff to be told, and not only like outdated, but like clearly racist. Like that's clearly racist information that's going out there. That's a painful thing. Sherelle is still having a hard time getting on the thing, but she is on the live, so we can see her on the chat. Sherelle, if you're able to try to get back in, like please do. But otherwise, if you have things that you want to add to the conversation, you could just put it in the chat, and I'll make sure it comes onto the screen as well. Well, thank you for sharing all of that, Sterling, because I'm new, like, you know, as was said, I'm new to this, not true to this. So I ain't got to that part yet, but I have heard like the rumblings of like the issues in the lactation space. All of this is brand new, but it is like the stark difference between, you know, birthing in a Western medicine, like traditional hospital, versus birthing with a midwife and doulas. Like it's so different, like and one having a lot of horror stories attached to it, like birthing in a hospital. Like I've been terrified. Like birth control for me has been, I don't want to go through that. It looks painful and you could die. like I ain't going into that. But you know, like recognizing that birthing in a hospital, like their rates are not as their success rates are not as high as midwives and doulas. And that's always been a fundamental fact that I find interesting and terrifying. But I'll start running my mouth. I want to come to you, Shamel, because now I'm looking at you. What got you into like the birthing space, and are you local to Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I've lived in Pittsburgh all of my life. So, how can I summarize my journey? I've always been somebody who wanted to help people. In the last 5 years of my life, I have been an educator. You know, of course, that becoming a teacher requires like climbing a ladder of sorts. I was officially a teacher from 2017 to 2019. The last 2 years of my life, I've been a mother. So I gave birth in 2019. And just the way that I am as a person, I I just study a lot. If I get into anything, I study a lot. And when I became pregnant, the center of my life just became motherhood. So I wanted to be very much educated about prenatal care for myself. By the time that I became pregnant, I already had a distrust for the medical field. So I wanted to rely on the hospital and medications the least that I could. Um, so, you know, I was just very much natural, very green, really minimize the use of a lot of things. And I didn't give birth at a hospital either. Luckily, we have a midwife center here in Pittsburgh, and it's a couple of minutes away from me. So I just really took advantage of that. And the more that I was into my own journey, I was having conversations with people a lot. And, you know, I personally just didn't have a community of people in my real life who could relate to how I wanted to give birth, what my goals were. You know, everybody was just afraid of the idea of natural birth. I don't know anybody in my family who breastfed. So it was just very much like an individual journey. And as I was on my own journey, I realized like I think that our community needs to know more about what I'm learning now. Pregnancy and giving birth and postpartum should be something to look forward to embrace. You should feel empowered on your own journey. You should be in these doctors' offices and even in the midwife center. You should be in there knowledgeable and ready to advocate for yourself and ask questions. A lot of the times while I was talking to the staff at the midwife center, I felt very welcomed. And as you mentioned before, like being at a birthing center feels very communal. And that was really good. But there were some times too that I still had to ask questions of like, well, why this? What's that? You know, just have really one-on-one conversations. There weren't scare tactics like there are in the hospital, but there were just things that made me go, that I had to question regardless. And as I said before, I just know a lot of people in my personal life just don't really know to question those things. And there's so much that you can miss, and it could really be detrimental to you and your baby. So I decided that I should transition my journey into birth work. Also, I attended my godson's birth. I love telling everybody this. I attended his birth, and it confirmed it for me that I need to be in there with people, comforting them, welcoming their baby, and having that joy over and over and over.
Oh, that's beautiful. That is beautiful. And it is like, it feels so foreign to us as, Black women. And I find that strange because I feel like that couldn't have always been the case. Is that something that you all could speak to? Like, was there a shift in like how we birth our babies?
There was definitely a shift, like a huge shift. I was just talking to a midwife here in Atlanta, who was talking. She and I were talking about this. I was telling her like I recently found that my great grandmother was a midwife in Alabama, and my grandmother just randomly told me this one day, like, "Oh, you following after after your grandma, blah blah." Blah. And I was like, nobody ever told me any of this. And she was like, yeah, we didn't know who was our cousin because who was our real cousin and who wasn't our real cousin because she birthed all the babies in the county, and everybody called her grandma, everybody called her auntie and all that kind of stuff. So I was talking to her, the midwife, her name is Sakisa, and I was talking to her about it, and she was just like, there was a huge shift from like my grandmother is 86, so I guess like in the 40s and 30s, the only way people were giving birth was via midwife, especially Black women, were with midwives and midwife assistants, or just so and so just so happened to be there to catch my baby. And then she was basically saying like they got all these obstetric schools, and the only way that they could basically stomp out the Black granny midwife was to basically make them seem like, oh, they don't know what they're doing, they haven't been properly trained. They also had to take a lot of comfort measures like nipple stimulation, all that kind of stuff out of giving birth in order to make these women's husbands comfortable with having a man come in that they don't know and be all in their woman vagina, delivering this baby. So it was like a huge shift, a big, oh no, don't let them do that, that's dangerous. My other grandmother, so my paternal grandmother's mother, actually died in childbirth with her like sixth child. She was leaving, had been like, I guess her midwife had determined that the baby was too big, and she needed to go to the hospital. And she died in transit, from her house to the hospital. And I think they found out the baby was like 13 pounds or something like that. And she just, died. So my grandmother was very like opposed to me when I was telling her that I wanted to do a home birth and all that kind of stuff. And I really just realized like not only the shift in like her awareness, because she talks about it like, oh, as soon as I was 9 months pregnant, I just told your grandpa to leave me at the hospital, and I just sat in the waiting room and I told them I wasn't going home, and I was just gonna have that baby, and they got tired of seeing me in there every day, and they just took me one day and told me they were gonna help me have the baby. So like from somebody whose mama was giving birth in the house to you just saying I'm gonna go camp out in the doctor's office just changed, completely in one generation.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I can see that linear like switch, like that immediate switch from like home birth to like this doesn't feel safe. Like, that's a scary thing. Kiasha, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, and what people don't realize is, for a very long time, Black women weren't just delivering all the Black babies; they was delivering all the babies. White women were not delivering babies. White women were not breastfeeding their own babies. So it is absolutely asinine. I'm gonna be using that, Sterling. You pulled that word out earlier, and now I need it again. It's absolutely asinine to think that now in both birth work, and all of these other, complementary professions, lactation specialists, and pelvic floor specialists, that these are also foreign to Black women. It is because all of these traditions that once belonged to us, once white men figured out that they could do it, number one, and then get paid for it. they, basically snatched it away. And of course, once, a white man puts their stamp on it, it belongs to them. And it was very easy for them then to come in and, press white coats and say, hey, they don't know what they're talking about. They haven't been through, the education, or they haven't, whatever kind of barriers and obstacles they put in the way. Originally, this work was sacred to us. And this work was more than just, an occupation or a way to get paid. And the medicalization of birth has not only been detrimental, as quiet as it's kept, it's been detrimental to all women. But of course, Black women are going to be getting it the worst. And similar to what you said about the young, the white man, the young white kid who was hit, and eventually, these white people noticed, oh, maybe a paramedic system is something that we need. It took something tragically happening to a white person. We don't want to say these things, but it's still not clicking. It's still not clicking. And the reason that it's not clicking is because it's us that it's happening to, right? We saw very similarly, with the crack epidemic destroying the Black neighborhoods, and how it was, everything was turned on us. It was our fault. We were the super criminals, the super predators. It was just in our blood to, be more susceptible to committing crimes. But we saw the way that drug addiction is talked about, the way that drug addiction is treated, and even a lot of the stigmas kind of being knocked down once the face of drug addiction changed with opioids and meth and things like that. So this is absolutely two sides of the same coin, that we are suffering and have been suffering. And there's a shift in the spotlight, and a lot of people want to pretend as if they've been here all along. No. Just like those granny midwives were the ones on the front lines, and were, unsung heroes and literally birthed this nation. Black doulas and Black birth workers, Black lactation specialists, whether in name or deed, have been boots on the ground. And now that there is, spotlight on the tragedies that have been happening in our community, around, Black and brown moms and babies. Now that there's a spotlight, now that there is, CNN coverage, now that there is, federal and state funding being thrown around, now there are a lot of people that want to hop on board. For many different reasons. And some are genuinely seeing the need and wanting to meet the need. And then there are some that are wanting to jump on the fad. There are some that are wanting to benefit from, these very limited funds that are needed for all of us. And so it's really, really important that Sterling brought up the origins of this work. It's super duper important because, this didn't just come up by chance. Your Black doula is a super cute moniker. I'm glad to have it. But I don't want people to see the comedy in my videos and think that this is not serious work. I love to bring the comedy because I think we need to bring the joy back to birth. And that has been stolen from us. Our traditions were about joy. Our traditions were about the blessing of a new soul being here with us, and that, and we want to celebrate this new life. And unfortunately, we now have so much sorrow just surrounding the thought of being pregnant and being Black.
Hey,
And
Key, I was just going to say, I saw a post the other day that said, how y'all going to be the gatekeepers of lactation when y'all weren't even breastfeeding y'all own babies?
That was the one I seen.
It was beneath them, right? It was beneath them. Our moms were literally being ripped from their own baby, had to leave their baby with whatever family member, whoever in the quarters of the enslaved, and go live in the big house for however long with that baby. And if another baby came, that was your responsibility too. And if you had good breast milk, they was keeping you around for real, to feed the next one and the next one. So where did, we learned Imagine that the act of breastfeeding not only being attached to you being torn from your baby, but then you're forced to attach to someone else's child that's going to later on be bossing you around and going to be your massa. We deserve to reclaim that. We deserve to bring the joy back to nourishing our children, right? We deserve to be educated in how to do that. And we deserve to be comfortable, and we deserve to be taught by people that look like us. It's really that serious. The representation is not just so, we want to see something on a flyer. We want to be able to nourish our children in confidence. We want to be able to birth our children in confidence. And that's going to take culturally relevant teaching materials and culturally competent providers and practitioners. And a lot of them are not willing to relearn. They're not willing to unlearn. They're not even willing to admit that what they know is incorrect, despite there being a vast amount of evidence against it. They still don't even believe that we feel pain in the same way that they do. So we can't do, it's similar to, when we say defund the police. It's going to be real difficult to try to restructure a system that was already trashed to begin with for Black people. So it's good, if we are not starting from the bottom, if we are not literally re-educating, it's going to be super difficult, because all of these, old school doctors are still here. They still have, their credentials, no matter how racist they are.
And antiquated. To your point, one of the first things I learned that kind of piqued my interest in birth work versus Western medicine was that, the story about how, birthing centers always, or midwives have always had a higher percentage of successful births than hospitals have. And it was the midwife center, and I forget where it was, but like the anecdote about the midwife center, the guy at the hospital, their rates, they were like delivering babies at like 20% success rate or something wild like that. In the birthing center or the midwife center, they were like 80% success rate, and they were getting frustrated, like how dare these women or whatever. And so they went and see what was going on there, and it was that they were washing their hands, like oh my God, like they're washing their hands. Bacteria exists. Diseases and stuff, they exist. And then they took that, and now and of course now that's a part of like the hospital culture. Of course, you wash your hands after everything you do, you take off the gloves or whatever, you're super sterile. But that is something that they literally took from midwives. So that was the first thing. It was like, oh, y'all really don't know what you're doing. And you're so stuck in this idea of being gentlemen. And therefore God's gift to whoever, that you're not even listening when people are telling you that they're in pain, that something is wrong, especially women. And I know so many women, Black women, who have horror stories, like as they were birthing, like terrifying stories, of just not being listened to, not being heard, being, induced super early. That's one of the things Martina and I were talking about was, women being induced at like 3 centimeters, being, carted into cesarean section births, like for whatever reason, all of these things, in women, quite frankly, like either getting close to losing their lives or losing their lives. Several people in my family, babies like stolen from the hospital, or attempts to steal babies from the hospital. My mom had some weird circumstances around my little brother's birth. Like, it's just all of these like very like, quite frankly, like scary situations that happen in the hospital. I feel like they don't happen in midwife centers, birthing centers, at home, because they can't. These are people that love and care for you. This is actual community happening here. It makes me think about just the systemic part of it. And I think that that's been thematic in this conversation, like how violent the systemic part of things are. Like when community are doing things and showing up for each other, it's beautiful, it's effective, it's effective, it's safe, it's effective. And then, white folks get their hands on it and tell you don't know what you're doing. We'll do it better. And they do it much, much worse with absolutely no care or accountability attached to it. It's such a scary thing. Yeah, it's a scary thing. And then last thing I'll say before I move on, I can't remember who it was, but someone, and Kieashia said something about women being afraid of birth. That was definitely me. Like I said, birth control with me has been, that doesn't look fun. it don't look safe. I'm good. Like, I'm good on all that. And then, like, before we even found out we were pregnant, I was like freaking out about the potential, because now I'm married, like, and we do want kids, but like, that's scary. And I don't remember who it was that was talking me off a ledge. It might have been you, Kieashia. It might have been Crystal Noel. It was people talking me down, basically, like, we'll get you through, sis. So I'm like, no, like, no, I don't know how this is going to happen. Like, it is. It's like, internalize that. That's a really scary thing. Before I move on, Sterling, were you about to say something else?
Oh, I was just gonna share with first of all, I wanted to commend. I can't remember which one of y'all it was who was saying y'all had your first baby and you had a home birth, or you was at the midwifery center. I applaud. Oh yeah, that was you. I applaud you for like doing all the research. And I always tell people, like, I love that we have shed more light into like natural birth and all that kind of stuff via social media and celebrities and all that kind of stuff. When I had my first child, like I said, I was 21 years old. They kept trying to force induction on me. They were like, oh, he's going to be too big. He's going to be 8 pounds. Yeah, I was barely like 130 pounds. And they were like, oh, he's going to be too big for you. He's going to tear you and blah, blah, blah. I had to get maybe 4 stitches when he was born. He was 7 pounds and 2 ounces. He was the smallest baby I ever had. But they kept trying to force all this stuff on me. I was like I said, I was young and dumb. I walked in and I was like, my mom said I needed to come to the hospital because I'm having back labor. And I was like, I'm not having any contractions. And they were like, okay, well, let's go on and get you hooked up to the epidural. And I was like, okay. So like, as soon as I walked into the hospital, they got me hooked up to the epidural. Like I said, I had to get I labored maybe for like 7 hours. Nothing crazy. He came, everything was easy. I had, like I said, I had to get the 4 stitches. But the crazy thing is, I did not realize until after the birth of my 3rd child, that when I got those stitches the first time, I was supposed to have pain medicine while getting those stitches. He stitched me up with no pain medicine. And I was just laying there and I was like, oh, this hurts. Like, oh my gosh, like this hurts. And he's like, yeah, I'm almost done. And he's just, stitching me. He's like, you only got to get 4 stitches. It was a very mild tear. And here I am thinking like, oh yeah, he's a good provider. Like, yeah, everything was smooth. Like, I thought this was like the way it was supposed to be. And then my son may have been like, my youngest son, he's just turned 5 on Thanksgiving. So he may have been like 1 when I found that out. And they were like, oh yeah, make sure that your provider numbs you. And I was like, numbs you? Wait a minute, I could, what? And they were like, oh yeah, even if you have the epidural, he's still supposed to numb you. So yeah, research and finding a provider who is going to look out for you like they would look out for themselves, or if that was their daughter. It's a lot. It's a lot. But I just want to say I commended you, because I always shout out when I see like first time moms, or like, I don't know, even young moms that are like, oh no, I'm about to have a home birth. I'm going to breastfeed. Like, I'm going to do this naturally and all that kind of stuff. Because that was the furthest thing from my mind at 21 years old.
See, imagine someone putting a needle in your skin 4 times. No. Miss Leah, how are you? Are you from Pittsburgh, and how did you get in the first place?
Okay, hi. I'm not from Pittsburgh, but I feel like first I should say that I'm the doula intern, but I'm also multi-hyphenate like everybody else here, and I'm a social worker as well. And I feel like I had to say that first so that I can share my story and then it'll all click. But so I'm from a smaller city, which is Altoona, Pennsylvania. I don't know if anybody knows that, but and then I moved here in 2014. When I moved here, I had 2 kids at that time. I was by myself with a 2-year-old and 3-year-old, right? And whenever I moved here, it was during a situation that wasn't really the healthiest for me. And so it was kind of like, I don't know how I'm going to do what I'm going to do here in Pittsburgh, but I'm going to find a way. And so then I started working in primarily Black neighborhoods. I was in the Hill District, I was in Hazelwood. And the work that I was doing, I was in after schools, but it was kind of like seeing the people struggle there also made me feel kind of like I identify, and I could finally see like people who were struggling along with me while I was also trying to help them. And I think that kind of put like this want to like help people and to like be part of their empowerment, because what that meant for my empowerment as well. And so then I would also say with in regards to the gatekeeping, that it was so hard for me to also get a degree in social work. I'm also not licensed, but like that even in itself, but I had to do that as well. I feel like for myself, because like we've been saying, there's a lot of people who are not us in these fields, in the hospitals, in lots of different settings, schools, hospitals. It's not just birth work, but at the same time, there's intersections. And so then I'm a social worker, but then social workers kind of move with the times, right? Like what major issues are going on. And the times call for Black birth workers on an increase, because what I found also is that if we look at like statistics, you know, the United States Black mortality rates and its rates of having what's the word I'm looking for? Circumstances that are preventing the birth from being as beautiful as it could be are on the incline. I mean, on the rise, despite it being like among its peer countries, it's like the only country that's on the rise, while everybody else is going down. You know, that among our peer countries, and so there's that statistically, but then also in the neighborhoods and just people around me, you can see that we've already heard from a couple people who have talked about experiences that are not what they could have been, right? And so then it's kind of like the convergence of the doula work and the social work, with both in mind to take back to the community, back to the streets, if for nothing else, to put the options out there, to not say my only option is something that's systemically not really a benefit to me, or like to just even just have that knowledge that this exists. But yeah.
Yeah. Hey, social worker. Well, first, I'm curious about what was the difficulty with you getting your degree. I'm assuming you went to Pitt just because that's what happens.
Money.
Mm.
Yeah. See, it's just that I think that goes with what I'm saying. Also, is just like there's Black, but then there's intersectional Black. There's poor Black. There's homeless Black. There's so many different like intersections, and it's just that it's the money.
Yeah, definitely. I've always had a lot of feelings around Pitt. I'm not sure if I have like words for it, because I went to Pitt as well. I graduated in 10, and the School of Social Work is a really good school. It's one of the top in the country. Last I looked, it's gotten a lot better even still, to my knowledge. Because I keep up with some of my professors and such. But there are things. There's something that's just weird about it to me. It's always been something that's weird about it. That feels very exclusive and exclusionary. If I'm being quite honest, it just is. It feels interesting to me. I was interested in going back. Well, I was interested in research, so I was going to go back to Pitt and do it. But there was just something like my first round here was really violent, like in my attempts to rectify that before I committed to going back here and paying all my money to be here. I these things had to be worked out, and I tried to do that, but I couldn't. Either people moved on that was contributing to that, like, and then the departments themselves, and I like, this happened, like, this is what I experienced here, and they acknowledge it, like, yeah, that sounds jacked up. And it's like, I'm not coming here. Like, I'm good. I'm good on that.
I definitely resonate with that. I think I also have, I was working on a minors in Africana Studies. So I say that because a lot of my professors then were also people of color. And so I think that for me, it's kind of like we all have to make our own choices if we're going to just go through the school to get the knowledge and be like, well, I did it, or just not, like, choose a different path. And for me, it was more like just finding those little enclaves of people that were like me, as unfortunate as that is, even in higher education. Yes. But yeah, I definitely resonate with that.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm gonna leave it there because we'll go down a whole rabbit hole. So I'm gonna let that go. But to your point though, like the intersections, right? Like, like the birthing experiences specifically for Black and Brown women, being so much harder. Also makes me think about, like, gentrification. And if you know me, that's my first word, like, because it's such a real thing, like, and it's so pervasive. Thinking about the things that we need, like, just generally in life, but like having a community, right, which is super important when you're bringing a person here, like, and then taking care of that person. It's really hard to have a community when you're being shuffled around, when you don't have, like, solid community, when you're now an interloper in someone else's community, like, and then you lose access to your healthcare, to your education, to your to your people, your family, your friends. That means babysitters as well, to your employment. Like, you lose all of those things when you're displaced, when you're intentionally displaced. And that's what we're seeing happening in the city proper, and also in Greater Pittsburgh and Allegheny County, as people are being literally, like, just uprooted out of their homes and in to wherever, to absolutely wherever. Like, we have communities that are and have for generations been food deserts. You don't have access to real food, like, and that's not necessary. It doesn't have to be like that. There's decisions that are being made. Like, there are actual decisions that are being made that makes that happen. And so thinking about those intersections, and then, as we know, like, Pittsburgh is not a safe place for Black women. Like, our death rates are off the charts, in the country. Like,
I think to piggyback off of that, also, I think we've heard many times Black women are tired, right? And so I feel like in another way where doula is also a big help is that support, and also bringing that information, where it's like, so for gentrification or the food deserts, you also have to think about, well, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? Where, like, this moving around, bouncing around, you're not even, like, it's like you already have to think about so many different things. And I think then on top of that, like, the information that you're being presented, okay, areolas, is not really what it should be either. And I think a doula helps to also bring you back and be like, well, this is the information, whenever it's people that are like us and for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I heard something, and I've heard different types of doulas, and I'm not sure if this is, I might be misremember. They said like rest doula or something, or overnight doula, something like that.
I think you're trying to say postpartum doula, and they are able to stay overnight after baby is born. Myself, I am a birth doula. I focus on pregnancy, birth, and the immediate postpartum. And then we have a postpartum doula that their care is designed. That's Miss Sterling. She is an expert postpartum doula and lactation specialist. I'm a lactation specialist as well. But that postpartum doula is there with you for a more extended period of time in the postpartum, which a lot of people don't know. That postpartum period, baby, is not 6 weeks. No. You're looking at least 1 year, at least. And it's really closer to 2 years for the body's hormones to rebalance. And that's with everything going well. That's with proper support. That's with, careful and intentional nutrition. That's with remaining mentally and spiritually and emotionally well balanced, that the body is naturally, balancing out in that time, in almost 2 years. So imagine, we talked about intersectionality. Imagine, okay, I'm already not being well treated in my pregnancy. I'm not having a good birth experience. I don't have the proper support to nourish my baby and breastfeed. I don't have the proper support to keep me emotionally balanced after I have my baby. And guess what? The practical things is what helps people feel properly supported in the postpartum. If you deal with mental health and wellness at the Wellness Collective, and a lot of times, if we go to the core of what people need support when they are in situations of anxiety, of depression, of any and lots of different mental health crises, a lot of it is, could some of this practical stuff just be taken off my plate? Can someone help me get my children to and from? Can someone help me figure out dinner 3 nights a week? Can someone help my spouse get to and from work in a timely manner so that they have a little bit more time to get, with their family rather than having to catch public transportation? The things that seem small, access to grocery delivery, access to nutritious postpartum meals that I don't have to pay out of my pocket for when I have a new person and not in excess of funds. These are very practical things that feel like somebody's going above and beyond for you, but really should just be a part of community and a normal part of welcoming a new person into your home, that your community is going to rally around you. And unfortunately, because society has told us that your family is supposed, yes, dishes, laundry, cleaning, all of that, literally.
It's kind of like a pregnancy catch-22. It's like, okay, you had this baby, but you can't carry nothing. Well, I'm supposed to do laundry.
Right.
Okay.
Or they tell you sleep when your baby sleeps.
How am I supposed to
It's
get
me
to
and
the
the
baby's
baby.
doctor's appointment, but it's snowing outside and my bus is late? It's basic stuff, and I'm tired of people overthinking it. They think that you want some custom diaper bag with 90 things and no, I just want a meal service. I just want some bus tickets. Can you pay the light bill this month? Can I get a grant? Like, literally, maternity leave is unpaid. So how do you expect me to have money for these services while I'm on unpaid leave? Make it make sense. I'm on an unpaid leave, and you want me to pay for extra things while I'm unpaid.
The birthing person.
They want to be stressed out about money. Then you wonder why women are going back to work 3 weeks later. People are not going back to work because they love their job. Now, if you love your job that much, by all means, but no one's going back to work super quick because they love their job. It's because they got a roof to pay, they got other kids to feed, and unfortunately, your health insurance or your other job benefits are tied into you working.
To take care of this.
Stop being stupid. Like, seriously. There's literally health insurance that won't cover your baby after 30 days, but then you get a bill in the mail saying, oh, well, you didn't work. Well, how can I work when I just had a baby?
It's so many, and it all ties into capitalism and somebody trying to make money off
the
you.
Big cat.
Yes, in any way that they can. Okay, so you gonna be off? Well, while you're in the hospital,
we can't have your child care while you're on maternity leave. That's a thing. I'm like, how can you not? How can you take someone's TCS away because they're on maternity leave?
What about the other one?
What about the other ones?
I mean, that's just a very simple question. If I have more than one child, what about this other one? I have to care physically for this new one, and nobody takes that into account. And it's very difficult, especially as a Black woman, bringing up intersectionality again. If I'm a Black mom and I'm single, I'm going to be very nervous at times to even ask for help in certain arenas. If you are not looking like me, if you are not able to relate to me, it's going to be very difficult for me to pack my baby up, go into this office, sit there, fill out all the paperwork. It's COVID, so we in there, with whomever,
and no extra people.
And right, you can't bring extra people to help. So God forbid
baby screaming, paperwork.
Yeah, there's nowhere for you to pump. There's nowhere for you to breastfeed that's clean unless you want to go sit in the bathroom. I mean, this is literally taking everyday life and making it 10 times difficult just because you're Black and just gave birth. Literally. Because people look at you, even if you ask for help, as if you should be able to handle it.
And the help
you should have it.
It's not accessible. It's easy to give someone a 211 phone number, But is 211 really giving me a deposit in my bank account to pay for this bill? No, it is not. Is 211 going to make my bus more accessible and come more than once an hour? No, it is not. Is 211 going to make my health insurance make it more affordable so I can go to a different office? No, it's not. Let's stop being stupid. McGee is now the only hospital now we can give birth to, and it's not really accessible to everyone in Allegheny County. You got to go to Oakland. And Oakland's terrible to drive, terrible to park, so you got to catch the bus. It's COVID, so you got to be on an hour bus right now to get a doctor's appointment. So you wasted 4 hours on a doctor's appointment because guess what? Your appointment's at 2. You get there at 1:45. You don't get seen till 2:45. Now you're late to work. Now your boss is mad. It's always a catch-22, and they wonder why you're stressed. You're stressed because life is not meant for you to just do other things other than work and back.
Yep.
Like getting
especially if you're a Black woman.
Getting a day off to go to your doctor's appointment is like pulling teeth. Getting a few hours just for, oh, can I pee? Can I get an extra drink of water? My legs hurt.
Can I pump? Can
Basic
I stand up and move
accommodations
around?
are seen as, well, you should be able to do this.
Especially because when it surrounds like breastfeeding, like y'all, I have so many clients who tell me like I'm nervous to go back to work because I don't want to be seen as that Black woman who comes back and now I'm having to argue with HR that they have to provide me with this space to pump and I don't have to clock out.
The bare minimum.
Or hey, I gotta go back to work at 3 weeks postpartum and I'm still gonna be bleeding and they not giving me any more time off and I can't afford to not, pay my bills and all that kind of stuff. It's just like you said, it's issue after issue after issue. Where we know if the shoe is on the other foot, if men were out here bleeding and pushing babies out, they'd be out for about a year. If the shoe was on the other foot, but because it's women who are going through this and, that's something that they will never experience, they think that we should just be able to bounce right back and, resume as life was before. And if you can't, then, we just need to fire you and bring in somebody else who, isn't going to have a baby or isn't going to get pregnant on them or, whatever the case may be. Like, oh, yeah, my whole reason for having this baby is to inconvenience you.
Right. And these be the same insurance jobs who won't get insurance to cover your birth control, they're covering the bare minimum of your gynecological needs.
But they cover Viagra.
Real quick and easy.
I find it real sick how it's the companies that are really like you. Like, I'm trying to think.
The single Black mom in a hospital room anecdote. Can we come back to how a doula supports or helps to empower your choices in the labor room?
Yes.
Kieashia, if you could. I just wanted to come back to that conversation because I think that that's amazing work as well.
Absolutely. I think what people don't understand, especially if they've not heard of a doula, I try to describe it as like a pregnancy companion. Because a lot of times, even if you're going to every appointment and you have a doctor that's, really attentive, you have a partner that's really attentive, you have a family that's really supportive, a lot of times those wonderful supportive people simply just don't have the educational knowledge, right? They don't know the actual process of labor and birth. And so what's awesome about a doula is not only are we bringing in education and information for the birthing person, we're supporting anybody that wants to come alongside you. So if you have a spouse, if you have a partner, that is awesome. But we also, for anyone that may be giving birth and may not have a spouse or a partner, I always encourage, if you have a friend, if you have a sister friend, if you have a homie, you got a close coworker, an auntie, somebody that loves you, right? That I can also teach. Because nobody is meant to do this alone at all. So we really focus on educating the birthing person and educating that person that's going to be closest to them as they go through this pregnancy and birth journey. Because just as that birthing person needs a little bit of a roadmap to know, where this labor is going, it's so awesome for the support person to have the same thing. You can kind of follow these context clues to know where I am in this process. I'm better able to communicate what's going on. If I'm telling you I'm feeling contractions in my back, I need counter pressure. That's not a foreign term, to your partner in the birth room. We are not learning on the job while we're in the labor room, right? We're taking the time that we have over the pregnancy to get as much info as we can, and also to build the connection that we're going to need, right? I love to get close with my clients. I love it. And I love to get close with them doula babies, but we have a very strong need in labor and birth for oxytocin. And what's going to bring that is the person that you love, right? We can build a relationship as a doula and a client, especially with me, spending a lot of time with you teaching and checking in, and making sure that you're healthy, and really just building a rapport with a client. I can do that, in this 9-month span or whenever you hire me. But really what I'm looking to do is strengthen this bond that you already have, because that love is what is most times what got you here, right? And so we really just want to build on that. We really want to, and then learning together is a way to do that, right? So whether we're in a private class with just one-on-one with myself and the couple, or if we're in a group setting, a group Zoom setting, the goal is always to educate the birthing person and whoever's a part of this birth team and this birth family in engaging ways that are going to stick with them, so that we are not taking fear and uncertainty into the birth room. That can be such a damaging cycle. We all know it is so much harder to go through difficult things when we are already fearful of it. When we have knowledge, when we have not only knowledge that confidence in our knowledge, but the people that are along for the ride with us, right? We can breathe a sigh of relief, and when we plan ahead of time with preparing birth preferences documents, when we plan ahead of time by practicing comfort measures and speaking with our providers about our wishes, about our desires, if it's necessary to change providers that are not in alignment with our needs, our doulas can help us do that. Our doulas can also not only just support our decisions, but also, let us know all of these options, because our hospitals are not giving us all the information. That's just, bottom line. So a lot of times there's just a sense of relief, when you have somebody that knows a little bit more and can teach you, and also that looks like you when you're going into these spaces that are just not designed for your safety. I really don't like, I'm not holding up the bullhorn as we're walking in the hospital. Everybody out of the way. You're a Black doula and her client on the way. We don't have to do that. We walk in with our smiles. We walk in greeting everybody because there's a confidence. Do you know what I mean? And it's not the first time that we've exercised our right to advocate for ourselves, right? It's not the first time when we're in labor, we're walking in like, here's my birth plan. Don't act like no, we've already gone over this. Okay. So y'all already know my deal. We've talked, we've planned, and even if things do not go to plan, all of your options, words are not being thrown at you for the first time. You are, and you're better able to kind of process when this is not the first time that you're hearing these words and these procedures. Even if there are some bumps and changes in your birth plan. So I think doulas are amazing at that. And postpartum doulas, honey, I got one word: nap. That's all I got to say. If you like naps, or if you like to wash your booty in peace, if you like it now before kids and you want to kind of have a little semblance of that, I would say invest in that, because the small things matter. And if you don't have things like we were talking about, if you don't have somebody to take those things off your plate, a postpartum doula is awesome at that. And they schedule to come and support you and your family. You're able to Add on things like sibling care if you have older children, pets, things like that. It all depends on your needs, the needs of your family. And that's what makes it so awesome, is because, there's videos, you can watch a lot of things about pregnancy and birth, but that postpartum stage is really, really precious. Our moms, our bodies, our babies are super duper fragile. Our partners and spouses are very fragile as well. The whole household is different, it's changed, and sometimes that transition, it's just you don't need to walk through it alone. There's literally no reason to. There's no reason. So we want to connect families to this, and a lot of people are so new to the idea of having this support, and it should just be normal. When you are literally using all of your life's juices to bring this person into the world, you should not have to lift a finger. That is just my personal belief. I don't know, how anybody else feels, but I truly feel that it's so important to bring, like I said, the joy back to birth, and that postpartum stage. That's supposed to be such a yummy and just cuddle-filled stage, and you can't really melt into that if you don't have the proper support holding you up. You feel like there's always something you have to be doing. There's always someone you need to be helping, when in fact, you are supposed to be bonding, resting, and healing. That's it. That is it. So doulas have so many amazing, not just services, but just resources and support that they can offer to families. That is amazing, all the way through to, from the time you find out you're pregnant, even if you're trying to get pregnant, a fertility doula can be there for you and help you on that journey. Those that are experiencing abortion, that are experiencing a loss, a miscarriage, an infant loss, there are doulas that specialize in bereavement. For every stage of a person's reproductive and parenting journey, there is a way that a doula can support your family. And if we aren't able to provide services that specifically fit your needs, baby, we're going to connect you to somebody. We're going to make sure, and that's the biggest difference. A lot of times when you birth in hospitals, you just are thrown out there. They stabilize you and you're on your own. And so many of our families, what we're not realizing is we're seeing a lot of moms in the postpartum period. We hear a lot about childbirth, and that, there's a lot of scariness and highlight around that. But we are actually losing Black moms around the time of birth. We are losing them while they're pregnant. We are losing them during childbirth, and we are also losing them postpartum. And it boils down to Black women not being heard, Black women not being educated, and Black women not being supported. And all of that boils down to Black women not being valued. You don't value enough to give us education and options, but it's other places though, you don't value us enough to give us the access. So a lot of times, full well that these programs are out there. People know full well, I have other options besides an epidural for pain management. And some women don't ever hear anything but epidural, and that, because there's a control factor. Everybody wants your money. They want you in there to give birth, but they also want you out quick enough so they can get another mom in there giving birth, and there's no care in that. There's no love. There's no compassion in that. So, birth workers, midwives, doulas, and other complementary, practitioners, that's what we are looking to do, is continue to bring joy and continue to build community, because nobody is supposed to be doing this alone at all. And they got us fooled.
Yes, all of that. Speaking about women who lose, particularly Black women, it makes me think of, and I hope I don't offend anybody, but it made me think about the young woman who took her life on the bridge and her kids were in the car. And it also makes me think about Adriana Williams' mother. And this was several years ago. This was in like 2014, maybe 2013 when that happened. But her mother, she smothered her, trigger warning. And it was just like the way that the city kind of like jumped on her, and I kind of sat back and watched it. And, and she's a beautiful little girl, clearly well taken care of. And as the story came out or whatever, like the father was protecting the mother, like leave her alone, like she's going through a lot, whatever. But no one was acknowledging the fact that she has this toddler, like this young girl, and she was young herself, and she was so stressed out. Like she was clearly going through like postpartum and was not being supported in the ways that she needed to be supported. And it was clear that like I'm sure she is still shattered, about losing her little girl. But nobody's seen her. And the city didn't see her. Like the city demonized her and attacked her a lot, and I'm not sure if that ever changed. But it made me think as you were speaking about, like the loss, just from the lacking side of things. It made me think about those two women because I think about them a lot actually, and how scary it could be. Like literally, how scary it could be. Aside from that, like I thank you for sharing all of those things, right? Like just the education about like the presence in necessity for doulas, in the presence in the hospital, and I kind of want to. I'm curious. Like, can I request the bullhorn? Can you? I know that's not what you do, but can I be like, I want the bullhorn?
I'm loud already, and so I be echoing in McGee. But I can get a bullhorn because I don't want nobody taking advantage. So I might have to just add that as a special service.
A little extra spice, a little extra sauce.
Yes.
Maraba, are you still with us? Here she is. Hi, beautiful.
I'm here.
All right. So I am curious about you. Are you from Pittsburgh? And also, how did you get into birth work?
No, I'm actually from Eritrea. It's in East Africa. I grew up in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And birth is, as you definitely see how the circle of life is, a lot of power comes from women. And I see, growing up, I was surrounded by a lot of women. So the fact that I am an older sibling to 3 younger brothers, and just coming from a big family, it was really important just to keep like cultural teachings that I grew up with and learned. So one thing that was hard for my parents moving to America was just keeping those traditions alive within our family. So it's really important to me just to continue that. And now that I'm mother of 2, it's really important for me to pass down the traditions that I've been taught. And one of them is something that is normal back home, but is birthing at home. So I'm really blessed to say that I have like officially birthed at home, and I'm continuing the legacy. It's just like so phenomenal for me to say that everyone literally before me, my mom has birthed at home, my grandma, etc., has had home births. So it really, I grew up around like, I would say, like, I've seen my mom 3 of her pregnancies, and just hearing my grandma's stories. My grandma was a traditional birth worker back home. So I've always been surrounded by birth. And it wasn't really until 2019 that I started investing into like, what does maternity care look like in Minnesota? Because that was the year I got pregnant. So I always wanted to be a birth worker, but it really wasn't until that I became pregnant myself, because I didn't really think about it in a personal aspect for myself, because I was 20, I think. Yeah, I was 20 years old. I had my baby at 21, my firstborn. And so I was just doing so much research, like, what does care look like for me in Minnesota? And unfortunately, I would like to, unfortunately, it's just, I think it needs much more improvement. It's good for where it's at. Like, we recently just got the first Black home midwife recently. So the fact that there's only one Black home midwife in Minnesota, that's major, but there's still room for growth. And that really pushed me to bring more cultural care and just put my voice out there, especially for people from my tribe. A lot of them, it's hard for, I would say definitely if you're new to America, it's really hard for yourself to open up to a new culture. So the fact that I can reach out to people from my community and make them feel more comfortable. I really am passionate about postpartum care and birth work, but really I do love the power of lactation. I just think it's so phenomenal that my breast milk is medicine and that I'm able to breastfeed my children. And I think it's really important, especially in the Black community, that is educated and we spread more awareness about that because of the trauma behind that. It really upsets me when we were like talking earlier about how certain trainings are only trained by what is for white people, when it's important that we provide that cultural care as well. So just making sure that, you know, my voice is heard. So by me being myself and speaking to my clients, their voices are heard too. So I really love what I do, and I'm just so thankful that, you know, I have the opportunity to use my voice and my platform and just bring awareness to certain issues that are really important. But I really do love lactation, and I think birth is just a phenomenal aspect. And we all have to, there's so many different aspects of birth, whether it comes to miscarriage or fertility or others that go under that category. But that's just a little bit about me. I'm a little busy, but yeah, I was just tandem feeding. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. My name is Merhaba Mabratu, and I am serving with Western Wisconsin and the Twin Cities in Minnesota.
That's beautiful. I thought I seen little fingers. That's beautiful, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh, that is amazing. Oh, yeah, and as going back to lactation, thinking about in the trauma that you had mentioned, thinking about how Black bodies are so sexualized. That like I can honestly say for myself, I had to and I'm still kind of wrapping my head around like breastfeeding because I'm definitely going to do it, but I also know I have this internalized like no, like no, like you know, and quite frankly, wondering like how I'm going to respond to like the physical act of breastfeeding because like it's super deeply ingrained, you know, like the way specifically Black bodies are sexualized in this way. So I'm glad that you had mentioned that. Thank you, Miss Janina. Hi, darling. Well, I know where you are from, but people don't. So where are you from? And we got you at the birthday.
Well, you know, I'm from the Pittsburgh. I'm from the South Side, though, so you know, across the bridge. But I've been a science nerd my whole life. I was watching TLC, watching, you know, women give birth on a baby story. You know, that was my thing. I used to do that after school. And, you know, I volunteered at the midwife center in my senior year while I was pregnant, ironically. I know. So I really had a nice, just like my whole high school career, you know, I always was interested in becoming a nurse, you know, that's my thing, you know, like help people using my brain, trying to figure out problems and, you know, help people in the end. I did nursing school for a while, and that really opened my eyes of what's wrong with the medical system. Working as a CNA for almost 10 years, working with geriatrics, working with surgical neonates, any type of aspect, you see, you know, the slide comments, you see the treatment. And, you know, it's really hurtful just because, you know, these are good, you know, practitioners. But if they can't implement their good skills on everybody, then how good are they? And, you know, you notice that in any situation. I mean, you know, we hear stories about, you know, people, you know, changing results in the lab, and we hear about doctors not using anesthesia on people, and we hear all these stories. It's like they snitch on themselves, and we're supposed to still believe them, you know, and that's my biggest issue. And, you know, that's why I stay in medicine, because I feel like if a woman, you know, sees someone who looks like me, she's going to feel probably a little bit better. You know, it doesn't matter if you're in registration, doesn't matter if you're the nurse, the aide, the anesthesiologist, if you see a black face, you do feel a little bit better because okay, she's gonna moisturize my ankles and she gonna make sure they don't kill me. And that's always just been my goal. And when I met Kieashia on the internet, I was like, oh, she gonna be my friend. I reached out because she had an assistant position and just working in the medical field, trying to just expand something different. I was like, oh yeah, we could make something work here. And I'm all for black folk and just medicine. Just birth work is very important because I have 2 kids. I'm very vocal about I was a rebel. I was the only one of my friends who didn't deliver at McGee. Everybody thought I was crazy. They're like, what? Yeah, you going to Mercy? I'm like, yes, I'm going to Mercy. And I was like this rebel. And then I went to the midwife center with my youngest. And still a rebel. My mom was like, midwife? Who that? She was like, what happened to Dr. Soriano? And I was like, well, Soriano retired and I don't trust nobody in that office. So, it's just kind of making women feel comfortable and also to telling them they have the same information you have. You can read a medical journal just like they can. Don't let them okie dokie because there's some stories she's told me and I'm like, no. So no one in that room was like, that makes no sense. And that's the problem. People, there's no accountability sometimes in medicine. One person can say something, but 2 people don't in the room just, oh yeah, she's the head nurse, she's the he's the doctor, it's whatever. No, if that sounds wrong, you should pull your person aside and be like, you need to do better. Mm-hmm. If you got a bad day, all right, go back to the break room or something. You need to figure it out. But we can't have black and brown people or black people suffering just because you had a bad day and bring the child in.
Yes. Yeah. And appealing to a false authority, right? Like we have this idea, well, because that's the doctor must know what they're talking about, and it's really hard for folks to question that, especially like in medical. So like all of the things telling you that you should not question their authority. And then like all of the media and such, like, I mean, I know y'all seen folks being like made fun of for going on WebMD and the doctors are like, oh, you're an internet doctor, like, yup.
But the whole thing that makes me mad, the whole thing that makes me mad about that, and I'll admit I've exhibited some of that, in my career, in my work, like, oh, okay, yeah, Google doctor. But a lot of the things you can easily read in a library. Like, I'm not saying everything you Google is accurate, or, text, but with library medical journals, I mean, you could literally go to a library and say, hey, do you have any medical journals on this specific subject? You be getting surgery, a hysterectomy, I mean, medicine changes so much, but does your doctor stay up to date? Does your practitioner stay up to date? Mm-hmm. There's so many different remedies and, new medication and new things. I mean, literally the commercial says, ask your doctor. So obviously it's commercial saying, ask your doctor. They obviously can say the doctor may not know about something. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I know that's unfortunate, it's unfair, and it brings us back to the catch-22, as a black woman who has 2 kids and working a job, do we really have time to research for our practitioners for a job that they get paid for? But unfortunately, we have to sometimes take our own time into creating our own medical.
And it's not just for like moms. Like I'm a huge proponent of, I tell all my clients, like interview these pediatricians. Yes. Like that's like one of the first things we're going to cover in my breastfeeding class. I want you to interview your pediatrician because I want you to know if your pediatrician is going to support your breastfeeding journey. Are they going to support you? Are they educated on breastfeeding? Like, hey, what percentage of your practice is breastfed? Like, tell me these statistics. So and it's something before COVID, I could say, hey, just walk in our office. But now, hey, you can pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, can you write these questions down and have the doctor email me, or can you provide me with an email address so that I can email them back and forth. And they may give you the runaround, and that's just how you know that provider is not for you and not for your child, because they're not going to support you beforehand, then they're 9 times out of 10 are not going to support you when you are coming in there and saying, hey, I can't get my baby to latch. And they're telling you, oh, well, here's a bottle. And take this formula that's just like breast milk, because you don't know that I get this kickback from Similac every time they bring this bag in here, and I send a person out of here with this bag. And like you said, and you're in an authoritative position. So I think that you're condoning it because my doctor gave it to me. And then I turn around and say, oh, well, I'm one of those people who couldn't breastfeed because, So interview your practitioner and interview your child's practitioner. Don't just go home with the person that they send you with in the hospital. Like that and don't be afraid to switch. If you think, even if they fool you and have you thinking that, oh, everything was rose gold at the beginning, but now you realize like, something is not right about this. Switch it up. Like, be like, oh yeah, no, thank you, and just go somewhere else.
Having the right practitioner is just important in all the things, right? Like we started doing a mental wellness speed dating to match people through the Wellness Collective, to match people with the right therapists or other traditional or non-traditional providers. Because if you get matched with the wrong person and go through the process of, first of all, finding them, and then setting up your appointment, like setting aside time, maybe even putting some money up front to have their first meeting, and it doesn't work out well, especially like if you are like in crisis or if you're not doing well, like that can really, really damage your ability to continue to even like receive service on the mental health side. Like, right, like so that's also true for your PCP, like for your pediatrician, for all of these different elements of helping professionals, right? Because they're people at the end of the day, right? Like Jadina said, like, don't come to me when you had a bad day. Like, I've been in places where a white person will be like, oh, hey, like, get all like the niceties, and it's me. It's like, name, like, bro, like, oh, I don't feel safe. This ain't a safe place anymore, like, and to the point, it's like, it's really scary to ask questions because, like, this is the authority in the room. Of course, the doctors will know what they're talking about, but that's not always true. And Black people, like, medical apartheid is a very real thing, right? Like, Black people, especially Black women, are not treated well oftentimes in medical spaces. I remember I had strep throat, and I had woke up like I was sick. I didn't realize I was sick until I got sick, and had to go to the emergency room at like 3:00 in the morning. I'm in there just dying, like just all over the place. And this little girl and her little friend, these two little white girls came up to me and like, oh, what's your symptoms or whatever, like your pain levels and all this other stuff. And I told them everything. And this woman, out her mouth, with her face, in her teeth, in her eyes, gonna tell me that the reason why my throat feels like there's glass and fire and gunshots going on is because I was dehydrated. She asked me like, oh, well, have you been drinking anything? I said, oh, I had some ginger ale. Nah, I mean, that's all I've been drinking in my life. And even if it was, like, that's not what's gonna happen. And this girl told me that I was dehydrated. And I'm looking at her like, I'm too sick to fight you. Like I don't, what? And she was about to, like, she was on her way to send me out of the hospital to fend for myself until the actual doctor walked in. And he came in, he was like, all right, hey, what's going on? Let's check you out. Open up. Whoa, you got strep. Bro, like, she was trying to end my life. So anyway, like, it's so important to be able to, like, if something don't sound right, no, that don't sound right. Can you get somebody else in here? Like, can you verify this information? Like, well, I looked this up and WebMD said this, then you're gonna have to tell me why it ain't this. Whatever it is, like, and if they might get annoyed by it, like they might like scoff and all this, whatever. But at the end of the day, it is your life. Like, it is your life. And seeing so many stories of Black women going to the hospital, either not being treated well, not being diagnosed correctly, or just not being seen. I remember being sick in college, and I sat in the waiting room for 3 hours. They forgot I was there. And I was so sick that my throat almost closed up. And I seen them scrambling like, oh, like, and then women leaving the hospital and dying. I don't know if y'all seen it, but there was a woman who said, like, they haven't seen me. Like, if I go home and die, I die. And she died. Like, she literally died from not being seen. Black woman. And I only see Black stories. And it might just be because I'm only exposed to Black people, or that's just what my lens is. But I feel like that's a us thing, or that's a them thing that happens to us, I should say.
I'm going to say that's why advocacy is so important. And I think a lot of people don't understand. We joked about the bullhorn. And a lot of times that's what they think, they picture in their mind when the word doula comes up. And a lot of that is negativity that they may have heard from their doctor's office, right? But what they don't understand is that advocacy, we are not advocating for you. It is very important that we are teaching you to advocate for yourself, especially as Black people, because this is not just going to teach you to navigate this system. This is going to teach you to navigate a lot of situations that you're going to experience, and very new experience that you may not have had until you are a pregnant Black person, until you are the spouse or the partner of somebody who's a pregnant Black person, and you now are realizing that you have to move through this system. You know, unfortunately, especially here in Pittsburgh, UPMC has the monopoly. So a lot of times that's not just your provider, that your care provider, that's your insurance provider as well. So that limits your options, and they know that your options are limited, right? There's not a lot of incentive to go above and beyond when the people that you're serving don't really have any other options. And so when you begin to show these families that they do have other options, even within this health system, you know, you don't have to just birth one way, even if you are in a hospital. Right? Even if my insurance only covers, you know, these providers in this facility, I'm able to teach families, hey, this is how, you know, you can get what you need and what you desire, even in this setting. Get as close to, you know, what's most important. And you talked about, hey, is this really just an us thing? It absolutely is. Most of the things that I have to like include in childbirth education and in lactation education, a lot of those things simply don't have to be taught when you have white clients. You don't have to dive into this crazy fear of being mistreated. There's natural fear of the pain of labor, and it blew my mind, I'm not gonna lie, when I had my a white client for the first time. The lack of fear, it kind of took me aback, because it's kind of a part of what I teach, and how to naturally kind of dispel that fear, how to prepare mentally and emotionally. And for white clients, there's a huge component of that is not there. They have a trust of this hospital system. They are not going in expecting to die. And it kind of was like, whoa, must be nice. You know, it's sad because, you know, part of me was like, man, that's kind of dope that I don't have to kind of immerse my own self in that. I don't have to, you know, cover this part. Because everybody is going to listen. Everybody is going to hear you. And it really, it changed a little bit of how I look at this work. I've always served Black families. That's just kind of the demographic that I've always served. I'm a Black woman, so my heart has always been to support Black women. But of course, as I expanded my practice, I don't want to exclude anybody. Like I said, we're all getting screwed by the maternal health system in this country. So I always look to support whoever needs support. But it's a stark difference. It's a stark difference. You can hear it in the way that your clients are addressed by hospital staff. You can hear it in how they are very adamant at keeping you comfortable, making sure that your need, you know, hey, is the music? I mean, it is a stark difference. It is a stark difference. And we're not talking about, you know, a white mom who's, you know, we're talking about a white mom who's married with a supportive husband and a Black mom who's married and a supportive husband. A white mom who's, you know, given different options of pain management, and a Black mom who is, you know, offered just an epidural, not even, you know, told about other pain management options. You see it. It is not undercover. They're playing in our faces. There's no other way to say it. And so we really, we focus on that advocacy, because this is a tool that you're going to need, unfortunately. and a skill that you're going to need to develop, because now that you have this child, you are also responsible for advocating for this child. So this is, like Sterling said, we're not just interviewing our doulas, we're not just interviewing our midwives and our OBs. We're not just, we're anybody that is involved in our care. Anybody that is involved in our care, we need to know is in alignment with the way that we want to proceed. And that's if I want, an epidural as soon as I walk in the door, or if I don't even want you to say the word pain management, whatever, wherever I fall on in this scale of what I want, what I desire, I should be able to have that. This is it's my body and my birth. I should be able to make this decision. So we work super hard to help families navigate that and make that a skill.
We kind of have to remember that in the same way that we have that like white coat bias, that they just know what they're talking about. And the doctor said, in the same way, that bias is also on us as well, from the doctors to us. And so I think the best thing that somebody can do is to ask questions, just period. Just ask questions. That's just...
Yep. And don't be afraid to ask questions. Ask all the questions. Ask questions you don't even want to know, just to see.
Yeah. And that's why I'm so grateful for, I don't think I got to kind of formally introduce everybody and like, tell their roles. I'll go down the line, baby. So I was super grateful to have, I'll speak on our doula interns first, Leah and Shamel. I really wanted to create an internship experience that was going to do a little more than just throw them out into this work. Because what a lot of people don't understand is there is a lot of healing involved in this work, self-healing. And so when people come to me, and Black women come to me, young Black or Black people that are interested in birth work, and ask me what they need to do, the first thing that I remark on is their own healing journey, whether you have given birth or not. Because as we've all mentioned, we've all heard the stories. We've heard stories of our own births. We've heard stories of perhaps tragic births that our own mothers have experienced, our family members. And a lot of times that pain and that hurt is still carried. And I am a strong believer that we do not have a right to carry our trauma into someone else's birth space and sit it there. It's just not healthy. It's not healthy for you. It's not healthy for this birthing person. And what I admire about Leah and Shamel is that when I kind of put the call out for interns, and I explained to them, hey, this is the commitment. And I really let them know that I needed people that had a heart for this work, not only because you want to see healing in our community, but you want to see healing in yourself, and and recognizing that you deserve that healing, and that what we get from our own healing is supposed to bloom out and help others. It's like you can't pour from an empty cup thing, right? And I really needed people that were going to be on board for that. And I love that. I love that Leah and Shamel are taking what they know in social work and in education and folding that into this, and really making sure that our moms and our families have access, right, and resources. So I'm just super, super glad to have them on board, and I feel very, very blessed. And I'm proud of them, man. They be working, and I love it. And Nina, she explained a little bit of how we connected, but I don't know if it was like that our favorite color is both purple, or that she completely does not judge me and my constant singing and my random texts that, sometimes you got to piece together. She just really is such a grounding spirit, because I'm over here all the time. She's very good at being like, hey, chill, you're doing a lot. You know, she's really good at just kept taking all this big energy, all these big thoughts, all these big ideas, and just kind of helping me, you know, manage them. And she's just amazing. She has such a kind and compassionate spirit. And I think when people come in, they just love her energy. So I feel super blessed to have her. Like, that's my homie. I can't even freaking say enough about Merhaba. Let me just say this, okay? I love her. Aside from her being freaking gorgeous, like that was, I'm not gonna lie, that was the first thing. I was like, whoa, she's super pretty.
That's that motherland.
Right, that's just motherland kissed, baby. Okay, so, but what I loved about her is I needed somebody when I was young having babies too. I had my daughter at 19. And I loved her, just the youthful. Merhaba is like the perfect blend of tradition and like that new. Because she's young, but the value that she holds for her traditions, oh my gosh, like I love that. And I love that you are just pouring that into your babies. I think that is just amazing. And those of us that are so far removed from those African traditions and have no idea about that, just having you available to teach moms this really is that connection for me. I feel like moms are going to be able to feel that connection back to our roots, because it's not as far away as we think. That's what I like people to remember. I freaking love Sterling because that's my Southern comfort, honey. That accent, baby, I love it. And I feel like moms really connect to it. She's really, really good on social media. And I feel like she makes things so plain. She makes things so easy to digest and is speaking to you like that's my sis. Girl, let me see that. Let me see that titty. Let me help. I got you. We're going to get you latched on good. You need somebody you need someone that's going to look you in your face and be like, sis, you got this. Don't even worry about it. Oh, I can fix that. Let me help you relatch that baby. That's going to speak to you in real terms, that got the tools and the technique that is going to speak to Black moms. Ain't nobody speaking to us. Everybody's speaking around us. Everybody's speaking about us. Everybody's speaking at us. We sit in these lunch and learns and there ain't a single Black mom in them. We like, who y'all talking about us, but nobody's talking to us. And I feel like Sterling knows how to talk to you. And I love that about her. What I love about Sherelle, and I hate that we weren't able to get her on. I love that Sherelle, I've said it about all of them, but that Sherelle really has a passion for families and strengthening Black families, strengthening bonds between Black parents and their children. And I love that. And she does that in her daily work. In her daily work. And I see that in neighborhoods like Homewood. And it's not, and quietly helping and connecting families to resources that are life-saving resources. That is not a small feat to be in that every day, especially when you have your own family, you have your own small ones that need you. And I love that Sherelle is so invested in caring for moms. She's so good at checking in on moms when they're pregnant, and just her voice is really soothing and calming to me. I love it. And I feel like, right. Yeah. She got that like low hum that just makes you want to be like, you right. Okay. This is going to go well. So I think that, and she's also a really gifted CLC as well. She's really, really good with supporting moms who breastfeed. And I've seen her in action, and I've seen her stick with a mom who feels defeated, who feels like I can't do this anymore, who's in pain, who, family ain't helping, ain't nobody, kids ain't acting right. And she's really, I've seen her be able to bring that calm back and reset, a mom, and really help bring her back and remind her of her strength, right? And that's what we need. And I feel like We also have Brooke Johnston, who wasn't able to be on, but she's a postpartum doula who also works with herbal healing. Oh my goodness, so many moms don't understand the power, the healing power of herbs, and how traditionally they were medicine, not just in the postpartum, not just in pregnancy, just in everyday life. And the fact that Brooke is skilled in that is so valuable, super duper valuable to have and be able to offer to our families. So I just wanted to make sure I was shining some light on these amazing people, because people like to act like you can't build a village digitally, or via social media and all of that. And I tell you, when I kind of got rid of that stigma, a lot of people were taken aback by my love of social media and connecting people in that way. And when I really threw that away and was like, listen, I'm gonna love on people and I'm gonna let people love on me. It don't matter where they are. If the love is genuine, right? I'm gonna bathe in it. And anybody who don't like it. And whether it's virtual, whether it's in person, we learned this over our whole lives being virtual the last almost 2 years, that real connections can be made. And so we don't just support families in person with their birth. All of us in most of our services, including our birth support services, are available virtually to families here, to families all over the country. And so I feel like I pulled together a team so amazing. And I'm so proud. I tell them all the time, and I told everybody the first day I met them, I am making this up as I go. I don't have no blueprint. We are the first, here. And having a brick and mortar doula practice in and of itself is a feat. But I'm so grateful that they were like, I'm with you. We got this. We're going to do this together. So I feel super duper blessed. I don't know about the rest of them. I hope, I always apologize for my craziness. I talk a lot. I sing a lot, and I, make up all kind of stuff. Who you see on TikTok, that really be me. So that can be a lot so for people. So I appreciate them rolling with me, rocking with me, my scatterbrainness. But I think they're amazing, amazing parents, amazing people, genuine people. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful for y'all, for real, for real.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. That is beautiful. Thank you for loving on your team and sharing them with us today. And thank all of y'all for all of the information. This has been super informative, validating, and just a beautiful space to share with Black women, Black mothers who do this, because I don't do this. If anybody is interested in checking them out more, getting connected with them, taking advantage of their services, and I absolutely recommend that you do. They are online at elephantSongDoulas.com, and their co-working space that I believe Kieashia mentioned at the very beginning. You can check that out at theherdpgh.com, theherdpgh.com. Very much thank you for all of it you do. I thought it was so amazing and avant-garde that boom, there's a doula co-working space in Pittsburgh. It's oh, it was something I never even would have thought about, but it's oh, that makes so much sense. That makes so much sense, but it's to have the brain and the intention and the purpose to walk in that, not only walk in that, but also do it and bring together so many beautiful Black women to provide the service for beautiful Black women is groundbreaking. I don't think there's enough that could be said about what you all are doing there. So very much thank y'all for y'all time and letting me arrest your Sunday for a little while.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So before we cut out today, is there any final words? Well, final for now words from anybody?
I just wanted to say I'm very proud to be part of your team, Kieashia. So as much as you was, pouring all your love into us, it's reciprocated. I was thinking it the whole time, she got some nerve. I'm just let her finish. No, but I think this is amazing too. I'm so grateful to even, have something like this existing and to be able to, follow my journey in a way that I could just fully trust it, be comfortable, and trusting you. So thank you for creating this space.
Yes, I want to say thank you too, because this is like, she's like Ocean's 11, right? The I don't know what his name is, but the ringleader. It's just like, we have our own skills and our own things that we excel at, but she kind of brought it together, and that is unique. That is definitely unique. So
Beautiful, beautiful. Y'all are
Also, I just wanted to tell Key, thanks for reaching out to me and letting me work with her mamas virtually, and realizing the creativity, and just like, Sterling, you can do it, come on, whatever, however you want to do it, we can do it. And I also want to say, what accent, because I don't even know what you're talking about, but but thank you for having us here. And my 5-year-old wanted me to tell y'all, hey ladies, that was him waving. He loves the women.
Oh, what's that little man say? What's up? Well, thank y'all again, beautiful women. Continue to do all of the great things that y'all do. Definitely giving me some hope in the world moving forward. All right, there we go. All right, well, thank y'all again. I hope y'all have a beautiful Sunday, Sunday evening. Kieashia, Janina, looking forward to seeing y'all, because, I'm always in y'all face anyway. And hope to see you all at some point in time around the way as well. Beautiful women, so dope. Thank you all for tuning in. I know this show has been longer than usual, but it felt so necessary for it to be so. Very much appreciative of Elephant Song Doula Services, Kieashia Edwell, and all of her beautiful just things that pour out of her, like just beautiful things that pour out of her. In closing, I just want to mention one more time that the Wellness Collective is hiring for community delivery drivers. We are doing $5 per delivery, local delivery. We were doing $15 an hour, but we feel like people get paid a little bit more when it's per delivery, just based on the location. Pittsburgh ain't but this big. So you would have to have a car and current insurance. I want no problem. So if your insurance is lapsing, we could possibly help with that. But you got to be on paper. Don't mess with me like that. If you are having a hard time with either rent or utilities, or like a little extra assistance, COVID is real. COVID is very real, and quite frankly, it is kicking Pittsburgh's tail right now. You can apply for rent relief from now. Well, it's been going on, but it'll extend until next year, until September 2022. You can go to covidrentrelief.alleghenycounty.us. If you need a little extra assistance, or just want to do something in person, with the help of someone else, you can drop in at any of the centers around the county. The Wellness Collective is running one of the drop-in centers in McKeesport. Our address there is 335 5th Avenue, McKeesport, PA 15132. Monday through Friday, on most days, we're open 10 to 6. On Thursdays, it's 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. Don't come there any earlier. We ain't going to be there. If you call, we'll hit you back at 12. We also have a food pantry there and a free store. Feel free to donate or take whatever. You don't need to engage with anything. There's no process or whatever. You can just come in and grab whatever you need. Whatever you want is there. Last thing I'll say is also self-care housekeeping. We are hiring wellness providers. Wellness providers make between $15 to $30 an hour, depending on the services that they're providing per visit. Our services are very wholesome. I love what we do. Yeah, I can't explain the feeling of being able to support folks in a way that typically there is no support there. In fact, that's why it exists in the first place, because it's services that I personally need myself. And so being able to be supported in really intimate ways through the home in regular maintenance is super important to myself and to all of our clients. We are currently running a super long wait list. So if you are on our wait list and it's been a while, I apologize. We are bringing on new people. We are training folks and getting them out there, but it's just a long list. I've mentioned before that, nearly since the day we opened, we've been, requested across the country. And that continues to be true today. And it's super on top now. We're getting requests on a regular basis. Our wait list grows on the regular basis. So we will be in touch. But if you are interested in joining our team, You can email us at peacelives@selfcarehousekeeping.com. And I think that's the last thing I'm going to say for today. I very much appreciate everybody that has come on today. If you viewed it, definitely share this episode. Super important, especially for Black women, Black mothers, Black girls, and Black families. Our women were the center of all of our lives. And so it's important that we not only love us and each other, that we are supporting and protecting each other as well. That'll be it for today. Hope you all have a good Sunday, and I'll see you next week.